The following is a sponsored program paid for by First Alliance Credit Union. Welcome to Good Money Moves, featuring Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union and Andy Brownell. Here's Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk, 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome to Good Money Moves. I'm Andy Brownell with Jenna Taubel, Director of Brand and Digital Member Experience at First Alliance Credit Union. Hello, Jenna.
Hey, Andy. I have another guest with me today.
Excellent.
I have brought Mike, our CEO, back. So I don't know, Mike, if you want to share a little bit about yourself and before we jump into today's topic, just kind of reintroduce yourself to our listeners, tell them a little bit about your credit union career.
Sure, very briefly. But yeah, it's great to be back. Thanks for, having me. And again, been the CEO of First Alliance here for just about 6 years, and have been in the industry, pretty much the credit union industry, my entire career of, 35 plus years in, credit unions or financial services. So, but great to be here, the best place at First Alliance Credit Union. So, again, like to get back to everybody and talk about, a little bit about our history. So, thanks, as I said, thanks for having me.
Well, it's always excellent to have you with us, Mike. I've enjoyed every one of the programs. So I'm going to ask what the topic is today, Jenna.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a special episode today, which is exactly why I asked Mike to join us. I don't know if you know this, Andy, but it is First Alliance Credit Union's 90th year. We're celebrating our 90th anniversary this year. Yeah, we got our start back in the early 1930s, and we've been going strong ever since. So as part of this, I'd like to spend this episode just talking about our history and maybe even touch on a few things that you didn't know about First Alliance Credit Union.
I always look forward to learning new things, and especially if it's tied into Rochester history. That's big time hobby of mine. So. I guess, Mike, that's why you're here. Where do we start?
Well, let's start with some simple details about First Alliance today. We have over 20,000 members. In fact, we just hit that mark this past month. Mm-hmm. So we serve our field of membership serves, our geographic field of membership serves 5 counties here locally: Olmsted, Dodge, Goodhue, Wabasha, and Winona. And so that means that membership is open to anyone in those areas who lives, works, worship, owns a business, or attends school in any of these 5 counties. And then if you personally are eligible to join, your family members are too. And, all you need to do is to join is to put, a minimum of $5 in a savings account. And in addition, and so we have 6 branches, 3 here in Rochester, 1 in Stewartville, 1 in Byron, and 1 in Lake City.
I didn't know you had Lake City, too. I knew the other ones. Oh, great.
We did.
Yeah.
We actually, I'll get to that in a moment, or we'll touch on that. But yes, we did. Actually, there was we had a small merger with a small credit union there in Lake City in July of 2021. So about 2 years ago, we merged in a small credit union, and therefore their members became First Alliance members. And it's also in, I believe it's the Winona County. So it is also already in our established field of membership. So kind of a win-win for everybody.
So if I'm a member, and to be a member, I basically have to live within those counties. Mm-hmm. I could have family who live outside of the geographic area, and they could be members too.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Some of my immediate family lives in Green Bay, Wisconsin, but they are members because of my membership. So, mm-hmm. So absolutely.
Excellent. So 20,000 members today, just recently reaching that milestone. I gather that you didn't start out with thousands of members in 6 branches. How did First Alliance get going in the first place in the 1930s?
Absolutely. Back to the very beginning, late 1932 was in the middle of the Great Depression. So that being said, a new school teacher in Rochester got together with 7 Rochester firefighters to form the first ever credit union in Rochester. So pretty amazing. And at that time, it wasn't called First Alliance, though. It was called Municipal Employees Credit Union. And the branch was actually in Firehouse 1, the original firehouse in downtown Rochester, the one on Broadway. So, again, a lot of history there.
And when you say on Broadway, you don't mean along Broadway. The building was actually where the street is today.
Yes, that's correct. So technically that location, so slightly to the side of, but yes, but sort of the same location. So yes, you're absolutely, technically absolutely correct, because otherwise traffic would have a hard time moving through that area. So, but yes, on basically the same location, but just on Broadway, not literally in the middle of Broadway.
The current, yeah.
Yes.
And at that time, the credit union was only open to Rochester City employees. And, one of the reasons why, credit unions have always been important, but particularly important at that time frame was a lot of time, it was a very tough economic times, and, the banks literally, because they could, they a lot of times wouldn't lend to most blue collar workers. And, again, that was, we were really a blue collar, base at that time, working base. And so generally the people got together and said, we're going to form a credit union, as many credit unions were formed during that time period. And it was really the concept of people helping people, which again is still relevant today in our credit union. So very interesting time.
Yes, the history of it is extraordinarily interesting. And when did, I imagine at some point you went beyond the firefighters and the other municipal employees? When
we actually did. We actually did. In fact, as I'm sure, as the municipal employee base expanded, so did Rochester over this many number of years, because then you go back to 1986, and that's when Municipal Employees Credit Union built its first branch outside the firehouse, and it's still with us today, and we call it our 16th Street branch, over just east of the fairgrounds on 16th Street. And
the one I drive past all the time, yes.
Yes. So we weren't only, absolutely. So we weren't only growing in terms of space, though. We, again, as I mentioned, also serving a wider group of people beyond municipal employees, and thus Municipal Employees Credit Union became, the name of it became less accurate, and so a new name was needed. And since we were the first credit union in Rochester, and we were formed by an alliance of city and other local employee groups, we changed our name to First Alliance Credit Union in 1996. And then the year after that, we built our second branch just off 37th Street in Northeast Rochester. And then in 2004, we expanded our charter to provide our services to the 5 southeast Minnesota counties we serve today, which is Olmsted, Dodge, Winona, Wabasha, and Goodhue counties. And just expanding, just briefly explaining what a charter means. That's the terminology that the state regulators, we are a state charter, a Minnesota state chartered credit union, and there are also federally chartered credit unions, but being either a federally charter or state charter means that you have a designated group or a designated area in which you serve. So as we mentioned, in our case, it's called a community charter. So it's really geographic based. So as we mentioned earlier, that's how, anybody living in those 5 counties or related to, family, can in fact join. So, so that being said, that's really, what a charter means. And then in 2006, we built a third branch in Byron, Minnesota, which eventually became the location of our call center. And, but now all those employees work remote. So a lot of changes since that time.
Interesting. Very interesting. I love the history lesson as well. But we have to take a quick break, and we'll return to Good Money Moves and learning quite a bit more about the First Alliance Credit Union, its roots, on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. Money Moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome back. It's Good Money Moves, and we're talking about First Alliance Credit Union's history, rich history, 90-year anniversary type history. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we talked with Mike Rosek, CEO, from 1986 to 2006. The credit union went through huge changes, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we sure did. And, again, it's amazing. Not only the members, lots of new members joining. We've also had a couple of mergers. And even with that, just our original growth, just the exponential growth that, we've seen in the last 10 years has been pretty phenomenal, because I just wanted to add the quick highlight that it took us, I believe it was 2006. So 76 years from going from zero to 100 million in assets, which is a pretty good milestone. And that's considered even a small by bank standards or small by credit union standards, but still 100 million is pretty substantial.
Yes.
And then, but then it took, from 2006, I believe, to 2015. I think that was it was 11 years. So what is that? So then that's our next 100 million. So we got to 200 million. I believe that was that would have been 2017, I guess, if I can do the math, They didn't teach me that in graduate school. But anyway, no. And then, but literally we're on the cusp of 300 million in assets, 5 to 6 years later. So again, that just shows just some of the, not only technology, but adding more members. And, as we mentioned here, we grew. There was a recent merger, as I mentioned earlier, with A.E. Gertz, a credit union in Lake City. It's a small one that we merged in, again, offering their members more, more services and products. And so again, that was done. And then in what people might not know is in 2012, we merged with a small credit union called Rochester Dairy Employees Credit Union, which served the employees of the local Kemp's plant. So we were talking about mergers, and really what they mean is, just combining your balance sheet, your books and records and facilities with another. Generally speaking, in this case, a larger credit union is merging in a smaller one. Of course, there's also mergers of equals, but it's generally going to be a good thing. Unfortunately, some of the smaller credit unions are just having a really hard time, continuing to serve their members. They just don't have the bandwidth, the capital. They don't have the, whether it's personnel, long-term personnel retiring, and the technical expertise, and there's so many compliance things. So ultimately, that can be a good thing, for their members. Bad to see their identity going away, but at the same time, they're in good hands with the credit unions such as us that have merged them in. And so we continue to, as I always say, we're going to treat their members become our members, and we're going to treat them just like we always have all of our great members. So that's really what it means to, merge in a credit union, and how it can be good when they do happen.
Excellent. So as part of our discussion of the history of First Alliance, you mentioned in the early days, their motto was people helping people. And when I hear the marketing today or even talk to people with First Alliance Credit Union, it's all for one now. Maybe you can explain how that came about.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So in 2016, really, the credit union realized that it was time to really refresh our branding and our external image, how we express our personality to the community, right? And at that time, we had a yellow and navy color scheme with our logo, and the logo was 3 squares, and a lot of people probably remember that. And it actually went through several iterations. And so there were multiple different variations of that particular logo and color scheme out there. And there was very little consistency to you weren't always sure what logo you were going to get. And quite frankly, the branding just really didn't fit the credit union's personality. And that was something we were hearing from members, from staff, over the course of several years, we were hearing this. So, and actually, it's really kind of a funny story. Nobody actually really knew what that logo was intended to represent, or why the colors that were being used. And I think some people called the little 3 squares either little chiclets or even nicotine patches at one point. So we were like, yeah, we got to ditch this. So really what we did is embark on a journey where we ultimately updated everything from our mission, vision, core values, as well as updating the logo of the credit union itself. And because we just needed a better way to express our mission and our member focus really succinctly. And this is where that all for one motto comes from. And really what it means is all we do is for every one of our members. So that's really our brand promise, to meet our members where they are in life and help them meet their financial goals every day. And so that's where that comes from. But our logo itself even has meaning to it. It's just not a random picture we put next to our name, right? There's meaning there. And so what that logo represents is actually the skyline of Rochester. And even the colors were chosen very purposefully. So that blue color in our logo is our loyalty to our members and our mission. It's really our kind of our true blue spirit, if you will. And then that red is actually a nod to our firefighter heritage, where we started. And then the maroon color that kind of gets blended in the middle, that's really just where our past and our present come together to form that really strong foundation that the credit union is. So all that being said, from this process, and then 2 years later, we actually continued to build on that by really formalizing what we called a story lending model for making loans. And what that really means is that we don't just look at that credit score. And we've talked about this before on the show. We don't just look at people's credit score to make a determination. We actually look at the member's story and kind of why are they coming to us? Why do they need that money? And we really look at their entire financial history before making a decision. It's not just the credit score. While we certainly do use that as an indicator, it's not the be all end all. And actually we took what we were already doing and formalized it to match our branding a little bit more. And into what actually became an award-winning lending program that we call No Judgment, Just Guidance. And so the all for one statement has just impacted every facet of what we do at the credit union, from the way we present ourselves in the community, to how we lend to our members, to how we treat them either on the phone or via email, or if they walk into a branch. So it's big.
And it's it just fits well with everybody I've met with First Alliance Credit Union as well. That idea of all for one, it resonates. So it's very very concise and coincides with your marketing and everything you're doing. And we're here celebrating, or at least talking about the celebration of the 90th anniversary of First Alliance Credit Union with some history. And we'll return after a quick break here on News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9. Money Moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome back to Good Money Moves. Jenna Taubel and Mike Rosek with First Alliance Credit Union, talking about the 90th anniversary of First Alliance, the history of First Alliance. And Jenna, I'm going to throw back. I had no idea that there was that much history to the logo and the change and the chiclets and the whole works. We've talked a lot about the history, and starting with the firehouse and the firefighters, name changes, expansions. And I know there's a lot more to the story of First Alliance Credit Union. You know, a big part of our recent history has been COVID, and I guess maybe we better touch on that. What happened with First Alliance is we all dealt with a pandemic.
You certainly did, Andy, and we didn't let it slow us down. It might have deflected us a little bit, but so that being said, in 2020, First Alliance actually opened its fourth branch location. This one over in the shopping area over by Costco. And I will say that this branch is very different than almost any other bank or credit union branch in Rochester. And why that is, it's a co-branded branch. In other words, the building houses other facilities or other branches other than First Alliance. There's Mocha, Great Harvest Bread Company, Bloom Masai Cafe, and Doma Title. And so what this does is it gives it a one-stop feel where if you need to do some banking on your lunch break, you can get a sandwich while you cash a check, or you can get a cup of coffee on your way to work. The branch also features our advisor-supported kiosks, which we use to give our members more control over their finances and also make their banking more convenient and efficient. We still have member advisors, though, to help our members with important financial moves like opening accounts or applying for loans. The kiosk would come into play a lot more than we thought, thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. So at that time, because most lobbies were closed other than, this one, we took the opportunity to remodel our existing credit union branches to rely more on the kiosks so members could practice social distancing in addition to the other benefits that the kiosks offered. And during this time, we also opened a new branch in Stewartville, where we also moved most of our administrative staff. We use the kiosk model that started at our Commerce Drive branch, and it's been a huge help for our members. And this is also when, during this time period, again, very busy, we also merged with AE Getz or Gertz Credit Union during that time period that I mentioned earlier, July of 2021.
So all the branches now have the kiosks?
They do.
Wow.
Except Lake City.
Except for Lake City.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we like to say, yes, they do. The existing, that one we're still, working on. I mean, we did get an ATM and we have a teller kind of pods there, which, again, they didn't even have that because, again, that credit union did not offer checking accounts. Mainly, it was only savings, certificates of deposit, and essentially personal loans and auto loans. So they really didn't even have have a teller line per se. So
wow.
We had to sort of, bring that up to speed first, to those members. But, we're looking at, that function maybe in the near future, in the foreseeable future anyway, introducing the kiosk. So, but sort of had to walk before we run in those. But yes, indeed, all the other branches do have the kiosks in them.
A ton of changes over 90 years.
Yes.
Wow. And really a Rochester institution. The story is great.
Yes.
Absolutely.
There's not too many other institutions left in this community that have a 90-year run that are still going strong.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're actually even a little bit older than the radio station. This radio station was like 1935, so you have us beat by a few years.
Well, I like to say we look pretty good for a 90-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, I appreciate the history lesson, and I hope you can come back another time to fill us in on another important aspect of the credit union financial business model. You always bring great information to the table. Appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate again being on. Love talking about the credit union to all of the listeners, and again love being on. So again, appreciate the opportunity.
All right, Jenna, and I bet you have a way we can learn more about First Alliance Credit Union, the history of it, but also the services that are available.
Absolutely. I encourage our listeners to visit our website, firstalliancecu.com. Get subscribed to our blog. We release new financial tips and advice out there every week. You can go back and listen to past episodes of this show at firstalliancecu.com/podcast or on krocnews.com. You can also subscribe to Good Money Moves on Apple, Google, and Spotify podcasts. And if you love our show, please take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. If you have a financial topic you'd like us to cover or questions you'd like to ask on Good Money Moves, please send me an email at marketing@firstalliancecu.com. I'd love to hear from you. And big announcement as well, if you haven't heard already, on Thursday, June 22nd, 2023 at 6 p.m., we're hosting our 90th birthday bash celebration at 125 Live. So if you are a First Alliance member, mark your calendars for this fun, free, family-friendly event. And of course, if you have questions about your finances, I strongly encourage you to reach out to our team at First Alliance Credit Union so that they can help you start making good money moves today.
That's First Alliance Credit Union, 90 years strong, federally insured by NCUA and an equal housing lender. This has been Good Money Moves. Thanks, Jenna. And again, thanks, Mike.
Of course.
Thank you.
And Jenna, we'll chat again next week with another episode of Good Money Moves on News Talk